And we're live. Okay. Well, happy day, Sonia. Thanks for joining me back here on this Friday to chat with our awesome group of women again. So we're going to be chatting, and I'm going to also be like monitoring my phone so I can see if somebody pops in and comments. So if you are joining us out there today, and I suppose we should just give everyone a chance to join us. But we would welcome any comments on the conversation, any questions that you have this morning that we'd be happy to take and discuss in there as well. But we're talking about financial safety today. Our topic the last 2 weeks has been about safety. And Sonia, I did a video yesterday in the group that just kind of gave some history of my own, like how my own financial history went. And one of the things that I saw for myself is, I see a lot of women in the group who their partners are maybe controlling the finances. And for me, it was almost the reverse of that. I had a partner that was extremely irresponsible with finances. And so I was always, I was still trying to control him. I was trying to control from a different direction because, every time I was always determined to get the family financially on track. And then he would go and spend a bunch of money. But so what I learned when I went through divorce and really had to stand on my own 2 feet is I learned there was a lot more to know about money that I didn't know. And there's a lot of emotions wrapped around money. And I also learned that my income went up in direct proportion to the confidence that I reclaimed inside of me. So, I had more courage to ask to be paid what I was worth at my job, and then, led eventually to having the courage to leave my job to start my own business. So I'm just curious from your perspective, what's been your experience with finances and this topic of financial safety?
So it's an interesting topic, and from my perspective, from the people that the women that I have been working with, there are definitely like 2 clear categories: the ones like you, and then the ones who have not necessarily deliberately, but it has happened that the taking charge of the finances in terms of which banking are we going to be using, who's going to make sure that the payments are going to be done, were stepped over to the man in the relationship. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing. We all have skills and capacities. We all have areas that we're interested in and other people maybe not so interested in. But when it came to my divorce, just like you, my learning curve was huge. I went from joint bank accounts. He's the prime earner. I was living abroad and in expat land, so I was not able to earn an income. I had no say. In fact, I didn't have a credit rating. And, it's going to take me a wee while longer to get one. So all of these things that I learned very, very quickly, or I learned towards the end of the finalization of my divorce, there was an element of shame around it. Like, here am I at this age, and I know nothing about such and such and so and so. And down to mortgages, obviously in America, they different systems or whatever, but just I knew nothing about mortgages. And just today, I was renegotiating my mortgage on my property here in the United Kingdom. And I was smiling at myself because that would have been a dread conversation, one that I'd have to actually steel myself up for. But now it's like, this is an exaggeration. This isn't true. All right. I'm just giving an example here. It's like, I'm not afraid to say, well, what is a repayment mortgage? What is a flexible mortgage? What's the difference? Why is this good for me? But before, I wouldn't be able to do that. So this idea that you don't know about something because you're a certain age or you should have it, oh, I wish we could get people to let go of that, Vicki.
Yeah, right. And also get people, I love what you said there about asking questions, because there's part of that shame. You know, we're feeling like we're isolated and alone, that like everybody else knows this information but me, when that's really not true. So when we can unhook from that and begin, you know, I teach a 5-step process that is all about, okay, if I want to learn something new, I've got to investigate. And then I've got to find who my resources are. And then I've got to, you know, decide what action I'm going to take. And then I've got to get feedback. What was the result of that action? And that's just what I hear you saying here about money, is being willing to, um, you know, how did you drop that shame? Let's ask that question. How did you go from that space of shame and not being comfortable asking questions to being able to ask?
It's interesting that if you noticed, I used the word shame rather than guilt. And technically, I would have thought that this would have been in the guilt category, but it wasn't. It was to do with, I am a failure and I am stupid. And here is a live example of me showing I am a failure and I am stupid. And so once I came down to this actual, and you know, I'm a graduate, I've got an honors degree, I passed exams, I get 90%, but still there was this thing. So when I finally delved into that and worked on that, then the idea that this was a shame thing shifted away. But nobody could take that from me until I had done the work. Someone can logically say to me, well, you know, you just need to go online. Well, nowadays, you just need to go online and you can find out all this information. You know, they're problem solving for you, but they're not getting to the pain of, yeah, this is just a reminder that I'm stupid. And this is a reminder that I'm rejected.
You're right. It's like that piece is the wound, the surface wound that shows up, but the actual source of the wound is way much deeper. And this gets to everything that I'm all about, and why, you know, I think one of my specialties is reaching women further down the road. I don't mean further. I mean, we meet women in all different spaces, but I work with a lot of women who, you know, that they're no longer in the toxic relationship. They've left it a long time ago. They've improved. Maybe even their relationships are way better, but these wounds keep showing up in one way or another, feeling like they're keeping them stuck in life. And this is the source of it. It's because we've kind of put band-aids on the symptoms and not gone back to the root of things.
And one thing that life has taught me is just deal with the root cause of,
Right.
if you can possibly identify it. So if you're coming at it from my perspective, and we work on beliefs an awful lot, we don't have just one, we have a cocktail of beliefs. And your cocktail, you know, you may have more gin in yours, I may have more vodka in mine, and it manifests in a slightly different way, so that even if we had the same I'm alone, or I'm bad, or I'm crazy, or I'm not enough, I'm too much, our way of doing each of these would manifest itself. But at the end of it, it comes down to learning not to reject the part of you that feels that way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
It does, but that took me many years to learn, because we resist so hard. these parts of us that we don't feel comfortable with, we resist and we want to push them away. So yeah, say more about that.
I think that I have this visual which I use with clients, and there is our higher self. There are so many different names for our higher self, but essentially the strongest, wisest part of you, the part of you that's connected to God, if that's the word that is comfortable for you, the universe, the higher energies of this universe, whatever that is. I'm not going to get into the semantics, but we get the idea. And it's being connected to that, first of all. And sometimes people don't even know, especially if you've gone through so much abuse and trauma, where you don't know how to even walk without getting permission from somebody else, where there's never been any physical safety or emotional safety or sexual safety or any of the safeties.
Yeah.
So it's learning to connect with them. But you see, if you imagine King Arthur and the Round Table, you know that. Do you know about King Arthur?
I do know about King Arthur.
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
So King Arthur rules, and he's the king of the table, and he's got the round table where all of his knights exist. And my knights are not always the good, the hero but we have them. But I have my saboteur at the table. I have my prostitute at the table. I have my victim at the table. I have the one the part of me that thinks I'm alone, the part of me that thinks I'm a failure, the part of me that wants to keep me safe, so I procrastinate. I've got them all at the table. Now that means I get to hear all of what they're saying, because they're acting and speaking and doing things for reasons. I don't have to listen to them. But it isn't about pushing away. Oh, it's shameful. Oh, I'm the only one that feels this way. Absolutely, you are not.
Yeah.
You are not. You get all of us together in a group talking long enough, and we can feel that we trust to open up our hearts and speak. You will find that there is so much in common amongst us. And it's that wisest self being able to connect with that and being able to say, okay, I had a client who went into court, and we were obviously coaching, and she came out, and I spoke with her the day after, and she said, yeah, I put the victimized child, she has a place, a safe place, which is a beach actually. And she stayed on the beach for the whole day, which meant that this didn't mean that this was an easy situation that she was in. It really was not. But she was able to connect with that part. That's absolutely fantastic. I hear what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And I'm going to be the one in charge. This rejection of the parts of ourselves that we feel are wrong, are shameful, is so important to sort of smash that idea out of the window, because it shows up in our lives, it shows up in our finances, it shows up in who we pick for in our relationships. So why not get in touch with that? And that's deep work, and I know you're doing it, and I'm certainly doing it as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's work that there's a continuation of that work on our journey of life, where we learn and we grow to one level, and then from that level we see some things that we couldn't see from this level, and we learn and grow to the next level.
Yeah, don't you think that that's what life does? It shows you, you've dealt with this belief system for this, and now you've shifted it. Now life is going to give you another one, or life gives you the same scenario, really similar scenario, and now how do you respond? Does
So
that make sense to you?
when I think about financial safety and this topic, one of the recent times when I've really had a learning and growing where I had to look at things differently was a year ago when I decided to leave my corporate job. And
Mm.
for 15 years, I had a nice paycheck deposited in my bank account every 2 weeks. And I was looking at that paycheck as my security and feeling like, oh my gosh, there was a period of time when I was really ready to turn my resignation in, but I had to kind of sort out this feelings of attachment to this security. And it came to me one day that that paycheck was being given to me by my greater source and security. So when we can step back and see that we do live in a world where we're connected to a higher consciousness that has our back. And for me, it became very clear that powerful source in my life had provided this job that really served me well and my kids well. And now that was just no longer the vehicle that my financial security was going to be provided through. It's going to open up the doors for me to trust at a whole new level in this source and to see that it's okay to let go of this. And I think that's the one thing I want to really say today to women who don't know where their financial security might come from is that unfolds when you trust that it's there and you're also doing your part to look at how am I bringing that into the world. The path unfolds ahead of you, and not knowing isn't a reason to stay stuck where you are, whether where you are is needing to leave a toxic relationship, but the financial piece is uncertain, or whether you're way down the road ready to use your gifts and talents that you've learned through all your life experiences and ready to learn that you use that maybe in an entrepreneurial fashion.
I completely relate to everything that you've just said. And the interesting thing is, I think when you're working as a coach, is that yes, somebody can be leaving one, like the trapeze where you jump from one to another at the circus.
Yeah.
You want to have, there's that moment when you let go of one bar and you swivel around and you grab the next bar. It's that swivel point. Now you can do certain practical things like, well, how am I going to earn money for the next? How much money do I need? Well, how much are my bills? What are my utility numbers? What do I need to put aside for medical? These kinds of things, you can have help and find things online or in support groups and systems to get those numbers. And then it's being prepared to do what it takes to earn. I'm a graduate. I can't work at KFC. Maybe you need to for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe be open to that. It's not a huge, I'm giving you, be flexible and take whatever you need to do and try it, because every time you swivel around and you're reaching for that's empowerment. We
It
can't
is.
know.
Your freedom is worth it. You're worth it. You're worth fighting for.
And that gets shown by the actions that you take, because you are so right. This word deserve, we don't even deserve the next breath. Someone could, you could have some choking thing and that's it. You can't breathe anymore. And that's it. Someone, look at the pandemic. We didn't choose, it could happen. And so saying that, there is no emotional security.
Yeah.
There is no security. That was when we were in the womb, I guess. But
Maybe, yeah.
yeah, but for the rest of it, you can structure it, you can plan it, and I don't know whether that was you in the corporate world. I got it done, I got my timetable sorted, I know exactly what I'm doing, and didn't make any difference because you got a phone call beforehand saying so and so is seriously ill or whatever it is, and everything changed.
Yep.
And so in terms of security, we want to be strong and show our manifestations, and the base of it is this internal security. And that is where you may need to get some support from people who are going to say to you, well, this is true, and chip away at it or push away at it and say, this is what is true. And what is true is that you can deal with everything as long as you do it one step at a time.
You
and
can
you
figure it out
in accordance to your values. That is adding on an extra level, because then when you look back at it, you can be proud of it.
Yeah. And let's do away with this idea of independence that, I think especially, I don't know, maybe this is true all around the world, but I think women in the United States have gotten this idea that I've got to do it all alone. And somehow there's some real like honor in doing it all alone.
No,
And
we
so
are
I just want to
belonging
bust
people.
that myth that nobody can do it all alone. You can't plant your garden and raise your food and build your car and
Make your
manufacture the
baby.
gas that goes into your tank. You can't do it all alone. So let's let go of this idea and let's instead look at how can we be what I call intradependent, where we're depending on our own inner self to show up and support us, and we're also creating a support network around us for so if we have a question on child rearing, we've got a wise parent expert we can go to. If we have a question on finances, we have, people that we respect, or a financial planner, or people that we respect, multiple, that we can go and ask wisdom and guidance for.
And ultimately, they can say to you, you know what, you should be buying these bonds, you should get into this stock, and then maybe you go and do such and such. But at the end of the day, the responsibility for that final decision is not them.
Yeah.
Does this sit right in my system?
Yeah.
Do I need more time to ponder this? Do I need more information? And remember, more information doesn't necessarily make things better. 50 Shades of Red is difficult to choose from when you're trying to decorate a room. 3 would have been more helpful. So, procrastination because you're doing research, that's you staying safe. Because nothing is happening, but you're saying, I'm doing a lot, I'm very busy, I'm doing research. Yes, do research for an afternoon, do research for a weekend, for a reasonable amount of time for the project that is ahead of you, then actually make a decision. And again, agonizing, I can't make a choice. If it's the wrong choice, you'll know. You can then say, you know what, that was not the right thing for me to do. Actually, it was the other thing. Being wrong is not weak.
Yeah, I say there's no failure, there's only feedback. So, maybe you needed to make that choice in order to have the wisdom and insight to see the next choice. And
that is how you get wisdom.
Exactly.
We make mistakes, and sometimes we make really big ones that we will never want to repeat again, and other times we make more smaller ones, and you learn from that. And still it comes down to, okay, that was done, I didn't make the right choice, but that doesn't mean you're stupid.
And I encourage people even to eliminate the right and wrong verbiage out of their language, because what I mean, that really indicates there was a definitive right and a definitive wrong. And I think that we live in a world of a lot of gray, where there's a lot of, I mean, there's nobody out there setting this standard that says you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. That kind of reinforces a lot of old systems that don't work anymore. So if you can even eliminate that language and say, well, maybe this would have been better, but this was what I did. This one would have been better. Now let's go and adjust and do it differently.
Mm. And it's having the same, if you watch young children playing in the sand pit and they try to build a castle and it falls down, and then they look over and they see that somebody's got water and that makes it sticky, and their castle seems, oh, but then they put in all water and very little sand, and they don't beat themselves up for it.
They just keep figuring it out.
They figure it out until the moment that a parent goes, Johnny, that's the best castle. And then they want more of that. And then everything's gone. Because then you're seeking approval. But that's it. It's coming down to own your decisions. It's not about playing safe means you made no decisions. Playing safe means that you will have like a 65-point plan about the reasons why you shouldn't do what the thing. Yes, but it's at the end of the day, that's stealing your soul.
And trauma actually one of the impacts of trauma is that we are afraid to make decisions. We can learn decision-making processes, like, how do we reality test something? If we're going to decide something, how do we look at the reality of that? One of the things I've learned to do in my own life is think through, having my values, my guiding values has been so helpful. Freedom, flexibility, simplicity, those are values for me. So I can now use those values to think through a decision. Like I one time bought a piece of property, and it completely, like, as soon as I bought it, I was like sideways with it. I was just, and it took me a while to sort out that there was a lot of things I didn't think through about buying that piece of property. About it tied me down. And some things I didn't know, couldn't have known before I bought it, but it violated the level of security that I like financially. It violated my freedom because I was always having to do something with it, and my weekends were spent doing things I didn't want to do with it. And so now that experience has given me a whole new level of thinking through decisions in line with my values. And so learning, if you're struggling with that ability to make decisions, which actually in emotional intelligence was one of my lowest areas when I began, really looking at emotional intelligence and how to move things up. And so it's a piece that I've had to work on personally a lot, and use some of these other, there's structures to learn on how to make decisions. So
there's structures to learn on how to make decisions. There's neurobiology which explains why your hormones will shut down your decision-making capacities, because Dan Siegel, you're using the limbic brain and not the thinking brain, the creative brain, the problem-solving brain, and it's actually developing the skills to switch all of those things back on. And that's not your fault. If you've been abused, if you've been in terribly traumatic situations, then it's absolutely not your fault. And be very gentle with yourself in terms of that. And work with it. Get the support you need.
Yeah.
The best investment in, we're talking about here in financial security. I think the best investment is to find the right support system. That could be your spiritual advisors, that could be therapists, it could be coaches, it could be wise members of your family. They are there, and let them guide you and ultimately train from the beginning to trust decisions. And we begin with small decisions. Do I drink water? Do I drink tea? Not, I should drink water because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm meant to hydrate, but what's my body say? And if it says tea, drink the tea.
Yeah.
If it says pink dress or blue dress, you can laugh about these things. I've said it before. It doesn't matter. It's practicing making decisions. These ones, they don't really have a consequence. Maybe blue doesn't suit me, but that's all that's going to happen. I'm wearing a dress that doesn't suit me. But, we practice making decisions. We practice making decisions that don't turn out so well. But they're low risk. They're low risk decisions. And the more you can do that, I'm walking in the park. Am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? If you've never started with decision making, remember there was a stage when you would hold your hand, the hand of your child when you cross the street, because they don't have the abilities to cross the road. If I did that with my 17-year-old, it would be a bit weird. But, it's a progression. You may have to go quite quickly through that progression, but give yourself time. And it's not a failure. It's just a missing skill set or a missing capacity. It's not, I am a failure. So if I don't know about my money, okay, I can make a choice. From now on, I'm going to make sure that I always know about my money. I always know what the passwords are. I always know what the bank statements are saying and doing. I always know what the big expenses that are going in and out of my of joint accounts are. I understand what pensions mean or whatever these things are. These you can learn. These you can probably find a course online about how to sort all of that. But underneath it, it's just you learning. Women still don't find it easy to hold on to money. Oh, I'll accept less money than I'm worth. I'm not going to find that surprising. Oh, I couldn't charge more than $3 for this. And well, that would be ridiculous. But money is simply energy.
Yeah.
It's a flow.
It's a tool too. Money is energy and it's a tool. And it's just, and one of the things that's helped me is seeing that and taking the emotion out of it.
It gives us things that may make us happy for a while, but even money isn't what you want.
Right.
You're buying money, you're using your money to buy an object. What is the purpose of that? It's meant to give you something. That something, if it can be generated internally through you, then you will not do things like just spend all of your money, because that happens a lot when you're emotional. Oh, dang it, I'm just going to go get that bag. And you didn't, it was not the best purchasing choice to have made at that time. And then there isn't any money left at the end for food and all of those things.
But back there is you can't do that.
Pardon?
I was going to say the feedback is you've got to do something different.
Never feel good about that decision, because there's that part of you that's going, you shouldn't have got that back. Yeah. Oh, but it's so gorgeous. But you shouldn't have got, you know what I mean? You've created conflict in you. And if you are using your money as a way to soothe yourself, then let's start work with that. That's fine. Plenty of us do it. So let's deal with what is it that drives you to make those kinds of behaviors. And that's all they are, they're behaviors. Why are you resorting to that particular one?
Going
And
back to the root underneath the symptom.
there's got to be some reason why you can't wear the same dress twice, or I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason. There is a reason why you're choosing not to know about your finances. And when you get to the core of that, it's life-changing. And don't forget, for those of us who have children, when we're talking about money, it's not just me that I'm responsible for. I've got 3 others, you know, and all of those kinds of arrangements and parenting issues. So yeah, that's what I have to say about we're coming back all the time to our core.
That's awesome. Well, Sonia, I think that's a good spot for us to wrap up today. So, you know, you and I, we get together and we can chat and we can talk for a long time about things because it's there's always so much to talk about and uncover. So, thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And yeah, any parting thoughts or final comments?
Work on all of the areas. You know, you've got them all set up in 5. It's actually, you know, work on one, get that going, a few points. If you rate yourself emotional as a 3 and financial as a 5 and all of these things, just work on moving them all up 1 point. You'll find they all come together anyway, that when you make a shift in one of these areas, it filters around the whole system.
Exactly.
And don't believe the voices in your head always. You know, you are King Arthur or Queen Guinevere, if that's what you prefer, but she didn't actually have any ruling powers, so don't go with the Queen. But, you know, that's what I would suggest. Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll see you next time.
Until next time, my darling. Bye-bye. Take care.